Okay, so in many ways it's actually very, very believable, really. But I got thinking about remembrance and how we all like to remember people and remember things in our own unique ways. And I'm a big hoarder. I have a lot of junk in my life and a lot of stuff that I accumulate. But I also ascribe a lot of sentimental value to objects. So whether it's souvenirs that I've gotten from travel or things from my childhood or anything like that. And a big thing for me, like a lot of people, is that I imbibe a lot of sentimental value in objects that I've gotten from family members. Now, as I mentioned, I'm from a Greek and Italian background. My dad's side's Greek, mum's side's Italian. So you'd expect that I'd have a really big family, but it's actually quite small. Mum's an only child, and dad only has one sister. So when I was little, the biggest Christmases that we ever had were about 12 or 13 people. And then when I was 8, both of dad's parents passed away in the same year. So my yaya and my papu were gone. I never met my mum's dad, my nonno, because he passed away when she was in her late 20s. Which meant from 8 to about 19 or 20 or so, my nonna was my only living grandparent. And so, of course, the familial connection that I had to her was very, very strong. And when she passed away just before I started my first year of uni in 2013. And then in 2015, I decided it was time to move out of home because I needed to, really be closer to Brisbane for uni. And so it had been a year since Nonna had passed away, and Mum needed to kind of clear out her house of the stuff so that we could start renting out my Nonna's house. So we needed to clear this house out at exactly the same time that I needed to move into my own place as an adult. So we shipped up pretty much all of the contents of my Nonna's house up to Brisbane and then sorted through them in my first home out of home. And basically, well, we sent a couple of things, fragile things or sentimental things, back to my mum's place. But in my first home, probably 80% of the furniture in that house was my nonna's furniture. And some of it was, just crockery, little stuff. And then some of it was really big pieces. So my bed. And I'll give you a little view of this dresser, which, as you can see, is wooden and, very old and very ornate. And my nonna had that as long as I can remember. So, I had been seeing it and associating it with her for about 20 years. And along with that, there's also these huge wooden cabinets made of the same wood, wardrobe cabinets. Then, there's a dining table, a couch, this huge credenza, which, if you don't know what a credenza is, it's a very large standing cabinet, and the top half is made of glass, and you keep, crockery, wine glasses, crystalware, and we got like all of her old crystal and whatnot. And in my last 5 years, 3 houses, I've always had all of this furniture and taken it with me. And of course, it brings about like interesting questions about like how I'm living, in her stead, I suppose. And I always try to be mindful of how she'd want me to live my life and how she'd feel about me having all of her stuff in my life. And the couch in particular is an interesting one because for the first, 2 or 3 years, I was living with 2 other of my closest queer male friends, and I would always make jokes about, don't do anything on my nonna's couch, don't have boys over on my nonna's couch because I will murder you. And then sure enough, 5 years of living with all of this furniture, and you start to go, oh, how would my very Catholic, very dead nonna feel about the things that I'm doing on this furniture? And of course, my bed was hers as well. She had this bed for a long, long time. And then it's been almost 6 years now that I've had all of this furniture, and the weird thing is it starts to become yours. You know, you overwrite the memory and you start to associate these things more with yourself than you did with the person that you inherited them from. And then every now and then I'll just catch a glimpse of something. I'll pick up, you know, especially, God, if I go into that credenza with all that crystal ware, if I, you know, just take a glance at anything at all of a sudden I'll get a really vivid image of the same piece of furniture, but in her old house where I remember it. And it all comes back, and all of this kind of, not burden, but certainly responsibility and warmth and a very, very strong association. And I can't bring myself to get rid of any of it. The couch is really, it needs to go. It's really getting there, especially after our first house. Long story, but it got very dirty very quickly in our first house because of where we were living. But I just keep paying to get it cleaned. I keep doing everything I can to keep it alive. And it really needs to go. But yeah, it's very, very hard to, especially with, again, big ornate stuff like that. I can't really conceive ever selling it. So yeah, that for me is one of the most intricately bound ways that I remember my family, because I get to keep little bits of them in my house with me constantly, which is very, very lucky for me. But yeah, as much as I think she would have wanted me to live my best life, there's always that little overhanging Catholic guilt there, with my very, very Italian grandmother.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's a great story. I'm Polish Catholic, and so my babci, like, we had a bunch of her stuff, and I actually brought this beautiful lamp, like this antique lamp. Like, I was such a loser, right? I brought it to New York with me, and